We made it out of Nashville alive, although
Eventually.
barely at times. It felt. Uh, this is USfanTV. We were in Nashville for the United States Panama match that I don't know. I don't feel the need to talk about a lot anymore because it was dreadful and boring.
It's not a lot to talk about.
But we have another match, luckily, tomorrow night in Tampa against Martinique, the French island. Um, so we will talk
Say
about
we.
who we expect to start, what we expect to see, and maybe why we should not uh, underestimate them because we're not in any position to be underestimating anybody at this point. But first, I need to tell a story. So Nashville was unbelievably hot. I think it was only like 86 degrees out.
I don't believe that. I
But
think it was over 90 by with the
that's
heat
what it
index probably
said.
closer to 100 because that did not feel like 85. That didn't feel like 90. I mean,
It felt like
I
one of the
know
hottest.
90.
Yeah, it felt like one of the hottest days of my life. The air was ridiculously thick, and I wrote on the website USFanTV.com yesterday or the day before, or whatever it was. I'm losing track of my days now. That it was the first time I'd ever thought maybe I'd like to leave a US match early. Maybe it would be preferable to just get out of this heat because the team sucks and so does this heat. Um, Little did we know, though, how hot it was. So we get back to the Airbnb, which is like a 15-minute walk from the stadium right across the river. And we do the show. And I had my hat on the whole time, the blue 47 brand hat that I wore to the game. So we didn't know that this had happened. So I take a shower, and my wife sees the top of my head, and she's like, "What the hell happened to you?" And I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I was wearing a hat at the game. I can't be sunburned on the top of my head, can I?" Well, there's this brown, like, burn mark right here, like big, pronounced, wasn't going away.
It was very, very dark.
And so I go grab my hat, and I'm like, the inside of the little dot on the top of the hat is metal. And I line it up, and sure enough, I had been sitting in the sun. That dot had been heating up, and somehow it was cooking the top of my head. So I go out and show Chris, and he's like, "What the fuck? I need to get everybody in the building to take a look at this." So he grabs his girlfriend to come out to take a look. And yeah, we all agreed it was pretty messed up. It's better now. It's gone. But that's how hot it was. It was hot enough to make the dot on the top of a hat cook my skin. So if you have any reason to doubt how hot it was and how the players were suffering through that match, and it's not an excuse because both teams had to do it, but it was absolutely brutal conditions. It's a great idea, one of the few, but it's a great idea by FIFA to mandate the water breaks. You know,
Yeah, the cooling breaks. Yeah.
a minute to cool off and get water can relieve a lot of cramping, a lot of players on the ground later in the game, and actually makes, I would argue, for a better match. So, I mean, that was a good thing, I suppose. But yeah, that match would have been a lot better if it was at 7 o'clock at night. I don't know if the outcome
Yeah.
would have changed, but it would have been more fun for everybody involved.
It certainly would have been a more active game, I think. I think in many cases, especially on our half, on our side, I should say, I think there was an awful lot of don't try too hard. We're not going to exert ourselves too much in the heat. This is the first game of the tournament. We don't have to win this. I think there was a bit of hesitation because of the heat. And yeah, Holden, I know what you mean about Southern heat. I mean, yeah, I'm originally from St. Louis. I lived in Evansville, Indiana for I don't know, 4 or 5 years, something like that. So I know kind of that region pretty well. That did not feel like 90-degree heat. That felt more like 100. But yeah, the humidity was just brutal, and the fact that it was midday when everything was happening, like all the pregame and stuff, and all the pregame festivities, and that there was no shade anywhere. I mean, even the bridge that the pedestrian bridge that like the FIFA or the CONCACAF party was under. wouldn't like had blocked off access to underneath the bridge, so you couldn't even go under there for shade. There was nowhere to hide.
Yeah, and even in the places where there was shade, like the American Outlaws tailgate and that the football zone or whatever they were calling it, the CONCACAF thing, there would be like, canopies and stuff you could go under, but it was so unbelievably humid that it actually felt warmer under those than it did, because
there were way too many people under there. They had the grills way too close, maybe in the wrong direction. I'd have to see. I mean, there wasn't a lot of wind that day either, so at least not kind of where we were. So yeah, it was. I think I've been trying to think about it, and there was. I think it was the day of the multiple games at Home Depot Center 10 years ago, like in the opening rounds of the 2007 Gold Cup, where we were out in the sun all day, and it was kind of like
I was car sick on the way home. That was the last time.
Yeah, that was where I was using a scarf over my head just to protect myself.
And I need to get a summer scarf. I realized a lot of guys had the summer scarf, and women, I should say, had the summer scarf.
Oh, I kind of wish I had mine on right now because I think I got sick on the plane coming home, so I think I have a fever right now. And I thought about wetting it down and activating the cooling technology and trying that out.
But I mean, there's stuff definitely. I don't want to talk about the Panama match too much, but there's stuff that needs to be fixed. Bruce got out coached. Panama was I think they did what they wanted to do pretty much. I mean, which was, defend and hang on to the ball, and they played smart. They got a goal when when the opportunity came up, and
well, I mean, there is something to be said, and while everyone complains about me complaining about the ref, there's something to be said for the referee let them play the way they wanted, which was just run everyone over, stomp on people, and it's fine. And there was no punishment for that, which then made it even harder for us to maintain possession. I mean, there is something to be said for when you illegally are taking the ball away from people. Yeah, your possession isn't going to be as good. The only time we could truly maintain possession was when it was deep in our half, and that was about the only place that he consistently called fouls.
We had such a terrible disconnect, though, in the midfield. Yeah. We could, switch fields of play in the back just fine. We could move it up the sides somewhat, especially on Kellen Rowe's side, but we had no ability whatsoever to have Joe Corona working with Dax McCarty and Kellen Acosta. It was just
none of the three had very good games altogether.
But especially Corona to me, and maybe I'm off on this, but Corona to me, there were giant gaps of space that we were leaving that somebody could have drifted into. It just looked disjointed, disconnected. It looked like Corona didn't know where he wanted to be a lot of the time, and maybe that's on Bruce. It could be one of these things where it's on Bruce. Bruce told him you need to stay back, and that left a huge gap in that number 10 area. Or maybe it was on, maybe Bruce gave great instructions and it was on Corona, but it just wasn't working.
Yeah.
I think the only people I thought had a good game were Dwyer. Again, the guy, you can waste energy. You can have dumb movements, but his movements in the box, I like watching him play because his movements, he creates a sort of disruption, a sort of chaos that I think helps, that we don't have a lot of guys that do that. Brad Guzan, I thought, had a good game. I don't think the goal was his fault. I know he gave up the rebound, but that was off a point-blank shot.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're making a save from like 3 feet away, to me, the save you make is just the save you make. The fact you made a save is a positive sign. That he didn't deflect it to the side or something. Look, that is such a reactionary save. You're lucky to put a hand on the ball, period, much less be able to direct it somewhere. So I don't fault him for that anyway. You shouldn't have that many guys in the 6-yard box, realistically.
Yeah. And Kellen Rowe, some people said they thought he had a lackluster game other than the assist. I thought he was one of the few guys out there who was creating for us. So I would say...
Yeah, I thought for most of the game he was probably our best player.
I would say marks to those three guys, and Dax was winning 50-50 balls. Acosta was very active, but
we won almost. I can't think of a single ball in the air that we won. I mean, the entire game.
There weren't many.
I can't think of one header that we got offensively or defensively.
I know Dax got a couple at least, but yeah, it was a very disconnected, poor performance. You can say some of that was on the heat, but both teams played in the same conditions. So I think that going forward, we have to win tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you might
it is much more important, and I think we need to get goals because we need to start looking at goal differential. The nice thing is I don't think either of these two games are really hard to win. Now, having said that, Martinique did beat Honduras, right? 2-0 to get into this. Nicaragua. I'm sorry. Yeah. Thank you.
They don't suck.
Yeah, they're not terrible. I mean, do remember Nicaragua beat us not that long ago. We promptly stomped them at home, but they certainly have the speed, and you have to presume they're going to sit back and try to counter. And I could see, because of the heat again, and only being a few days rest, that Bruce is going to have a pretty different lineup. And he's kind of suggested as much. I mean, he's pretty much said that you could see something like up to 7 changes or something, which we all thought was insane ahead of the Mexico match, and then it promptly occurred. So I'm guessing he's probably telling the truth there.
Yeah, we were going through earlier, and I had 3 changes in my initial pitch to you as to what we would do, only because I think there's about a 90% chance we win tomorrow night. But I think there's a 5% chance that maybe we draw and a 5% chance that we lose. I don't have complete confidence we're going to win. I think they have 4 guys who play outside of the Martinique soccer league. 1 plays for the Sounders and 3 play in Europe. So it's not like they're a vastly experienced team. It's not like, if they had anybody world class, they'd be playing for France. But I mean, how hard is it to break into the French national team? You would have to. They don't have anybody near that level, but they're not bad either.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a team that in the Caribbean Cup recently beat Trinidad and Tobago, and Trinidad and Tobago is a team we probably beat, but don't mess around with. So we obviously beat them in Denver, but when we go down there, who knows what's going to happen. So they're not a bad team, even though they're not a team that we play in qualifying or anything like that, because they're not an official FIFA nation. They're part of France. They're still a team that we don't want to mess around with too much. But, if Bruce is coming out, so I thought 3 or 4 changes. Bruce says up to 7. I think in my lineup I have maybe 5, and I think that includes, I think he's going to switch the goalkeeper. Not that Guzan did a bad job, but if there was ever a match to throw out Sean Johnson or Bill Hamid, this would probably be it. So I think maybe he gives Brad a break here and goes back to him after that. But yeah, I guess, do we want to do lineups right now and see what we're...
Yeah, I mean, we might as well. I see some people already kind of talking about their thoughts on it. See, I don't think I'll disagree. I think it was Mike who said Dax sucks. I don't think it's that Dax sucks. It's that Dax just isn't as good as Michael Bradley, and so he's never going to get a chance realistically, because he essentially is the same player, but he's not as good.
Yeah.
So it's not that he sucks. It's that the kind of the top guy in the pecking order wins the spot.
Yeah. There's the whole. I mean, we throw sucks around in the sports world pretty liberally, but we say Wando sucks all the time. Wando is probably one of the best strikers in MLS history, but we sucks because he's not what we expect him to be. He's not at the level. People say Josie Altidore sucks. He's one of the best strikers we ever produced. Again, not at the level that we expect him to be. Or Michael Bradley, he sucks. Well, he doesn't. He's one of the best players we ever produced, but he's not what you want him to be. So we throw that around a lot, but I don't think Dax sucks. I watch Dax in Chicago all the time this year, and he's doing a very nice job in the midfield for us. But I don't want to start a World Cup match with Dax.
I mean, he's another Kyle Beckerman kind of. It's not that he sucks. It's just that he's not the guy we want.
All right, so I went Sean Johnson in goal because it's crazy. It's crazy. I think he probably is third on the pecking order, but I'm saying it just to say it. It's another one of these things where if I say something crazy like this, if I'm wrong, you expect me to be dumb. But if I get it right, they come back and they say I'm a genius. Back line of Villafaña, Beasler, Hedges, and for the love of God, Eric Lehigh, please. I don't think Graham Zusi is as bad as people say, but I would like to see a change there, and I think that could be one of them. I think he sticks with Dax and Acosta. I've got Kellen Rowe, Christian Roldan, and Paul Arriola ahead of them. This leaves Bedoya out. I hope he is out. I didn't like his performance the other day. It was again, Bedoya never really has a terrible game. It's rare that he has a terrible game, but it's just there's nothing coming from there from an offensive standpoint. And then I don't see how you go away from Dom Dwyer. He might throw Morris out there. He might throw Aguadello out there. Maybe he puts Aguadello in at the 10, but I think he keeps Dom Dwyer up top. So that's what I got.
Yeah. I did go with Hamid in goal. I started looking at my number of changes, and I've got 6 changes from the other day.
Okay.
So it's I've got Hamid in goal. Villafaña, I could see where he gets replaced because he didn't have a great game. He has played a lot of games consistently now, but I think some of that is to get him more reps.
I think he wants
which is why I left him and Acosta in. But I could see where maybe you try out something else here because of the fact that this many games in a row, the heat, the exertion, whatever, it gets to be a lot. I could see where he might be the 7th swap, but we'll see. I've got Omar and Matt Hedges in the middle. Lehigh on the right. I just think Zusi. This is a team that isn't going to be highly talented, so Bruce might be more open to experimentation. Also, they're going to have a lot of speed. So I could see where he might, so did Panama, so who knows. But to me, Zusi wasn't great. I didn't think he was terrible, but he wasn't great. He definitely got exposed for his lack of speed. So, it would be nice to see someone else get a chance. And I don't know what else Lehigh has to do to get an opportunity around here. Across the midfield, I went Rowe on the left. I thought about moving him into the middle. See, I would give him a break because it's 2 games in a row, and he picked up an injury later in the game. I still haven't heard how serious it is. So, maybe he gets the break. But I thought about moving him into the middle because he was such a productive player for us the other day. He was generating most of the offense, or a large part of the offense in the first half especially. So, like we've talked about in the past, give the kid more challenges. But for the time being, at least in kind of a 4-4-2 that I've got here, I've got Acosta and Roldan in the center, Arriola on the right. I thought maybe Bedoya would still get in because he was captain the other day. But to me, Bruce yanked Arriola because he didn't play well against Ghana. I don't think Bedoya proved enough against Panama to show that he was truly better than Arriola. So to me, you keep giving the youngster a chance here, and this is the great opportunity for him. Then I got 2 up top in Dwyer and Aguadello.
Okay.
Aguadello's sort of in some ways, I guess you would say that Dom is the holding guy as well as the striker. To me, it's almost like Aguadello's a bit of a 10 there because he's probably a little bit withdrawn because he wants to dribble the ball.
Right.
But, and then you got Dwyer to finish it off. Aguadello, to me, his first touch wasn't great. I actually thought Giazzi had a better first touch the other day. But I still think Aguadello offers things that kind of nobody else in this roster can. He does have things he does with the ball that I think earn him more spots than he might otherwise based on kind of his scoring record. I'd like to see.
He's one of the most confusing guys we have. for me to figure out. Like I'd like to see him, if he was consistently as good as the flashes he shows, he would start. But we all know, you don't always get that from him. So, and I don't know why. I don't know what's going on there.
My problem with Morris starting up top is that I think in some ways he's just another Dom Dwyer. And right now, Dwyer's 2 for 2. You don't pull that guy.
I wouldn't.
Maybe because you are looking at this as he needs a break. But to me, unless he truly is having an issue, he got overheated or he was dehydrated or something too much after the game. To me, you send that guy out because he's on a hot streak. It's sort of like how we kept running Deuce out even after we'd all kind of said he probably should be a super sub, but he just kept scoring. You can't put that guy on the bench. You send him out. So I see Dwyer getting the nod over Morris. Agudelo is a different player, so I see him getting the other spot. I mean, there is the chance that we could go with like a 3-4-3 to try to combat what I assume they're going to do in something like a 4-5-1 maybe to try and stop us, because they're absolutely going to try to be packing the box and then attacking with their speed. So we might go 3-4-3 to try to hold the ball more in the offensive third and make more opportunities.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It's a game that we have to win now. I mean, we don't technically have to, but we have to, because we don't want to face Mexico or Costa Rica in the semifinal if we can avoid it. And it's a game that you go, well, of course we're going to win. Well, probably, but yeah, you don't know. So I would say you could go you could go with Dwyer, and if we're winning, we're up 3 or 4. So if we have a ridiculous first half, yank him and put Morris out there. Maybe that's how you get Dwyer some rest. Does Dwyer even need rest? I mean, Bruce has a better handle on that than we do, but he looked like he was working pretty hard in the heat in Nashville.
Yeah.
So maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But a win takes the pressure off against Nicaragua, and if there's that whole transitive property of sports thing that never works. But if this team beat Nicaragua, then presumably the easiest game of the 3 would be Nicaragua and Cleveland. But it never ever works that way. So usually doesn't, at least.
Yeah, Joshua, Saif, it would be nice to see Saif still here because, we'd certainly like to see him in the lineup. I think that would give you the chance to put him on the left maybe and then slot row into the middle. Maybe nice. There's a chance to do the same thing there if you put him in kind of that creative spot, because he should be one of the best players out here. Unfortunately, we didn't really get enough chances to see him to truly know what can he offer. But hey, it'll happen eventually. I don't, as we talked about, I don't know if he can be subbed back into the roster, say after the opening rounds. Because of his injury. Will he be better in time, and can you be subbed back in after you've been subbed out? I don't know.
I mean, it makes sense that you could, because he didn't actually play a game yet, but who knows? Maybe you got to just pay off the right person and you're good to go. What's the Jack Warner donation form say on that? There's probably some sort of guidelines on that.
Our business is our business.
The one thing I wonder, and I don't have an answer on, like, let's say we make 4 or 5 changes after the opening rounds. Just like Dempsey and Bradley get their preferred jersey numbers and they shift everybody around, or are we going to see those guys wearing a weird jersey number because they have to take one of the ones
that's a good question. I don't know.
Of the departed players, making it even weirder if you had like a Gold Cup Clint Dempsey number.
Who's wearing an 8 and a 4? I don't know.
9. I don't remember. I think Jordan Morris might be wearing the 8. So maybe we'll just swap him out for his teammate.
Yeah, maybe that's actually how they're doing it. It was a bit of a nod to those guys, like, just so you know.
be a nice upgrade there. But you know, I don't feel. I mean, I didn't feel crazy confident that we were winning this thing to start because of the roster that we put out. But Mexico's B team sure looked good the other night. So there's going to be competition in this thing, and I'd hate to see it go the way it did in 2015. But if I had to bet money, I would bet money on us winning, maybe, but I wouldn't feel terribly confident about it. So I'm not here boasting and bragging and calling shots because I don't know that this team has it in it. We looked okay in the friendly and pretty bad in Nashville. So
there is that. I don't know if Dwyer's in the heads of the back line, but he definitely moves around enough and makes enough runs that he makes them have to pay attention to him. And I think he's drawing guys into places that do create space then for the other attacking players.
Men and Blazers have called him English American Diego Costa. I'm
not sure how I feel about that.
I think they look sort of alike physically, except, Dwyer looks like a human being. And Dwyer isn't nearly the asshole that Diego Costa is.
Yeah.
He's also not nearly as good, but they do kind of have some similar touches in their game. So speaking of touches, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Giassi Zardes didn't suck the other night.
No.
That we saw him. So
his first touches were actually pretty strong. So hopefully he's getting some of that back. I still think to become a consistent player for the U.S. going forward, he's got to probably move to Europe. I think he needs to move to, maybe it's Spain, maybe it's a lower level team in Spain, Portugal, maybe it's Holland. Holland's been pretty good for our players. Maybe it's Germany. Just turning out to be even better for our players, really. He needs somewhere where I think he's going to be challenged more and he's going to face more competition. And then, he needs to keep working on that. Because I like his attitude towards games. I like his personality. And I like that he seems to be one of those guys who truly understands that, look, I'm lucky to be here and I'm going to live this out. And you want to root for those guys. So I want to see him succeed. I'm not sure at this point if there's enough time for him to get a spot truly on the World Cup roster. I just think there's a lot of competition for very few spots right now.
Yeah, how many guys?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure he makes it.
Team right now that you say would make the World Cup roster? Is there anybody?
This team, like the Gold Cup team, Kellen Acosta, probably Kellen Rowe actually right now.
Kellen Acosta, Brad Guzan.
Rowe, I'm not ready to say for sure, but to me, he's moving himself heavily into that conversation. I think Dom Dwyer. I don't think Dwyer goes in as a starter, but I think he's one of the probably 4 forwards. And I think Guzan, Omar as well. Maybe
Omar.
I think Omar seems to be our number 3 center back. So I think he's in regardless.
Yeah, but that's it. There's not a lot.
Ariola has a shot.
Maybe.
Anybody I think who's getting a start in Mexico City, I would think that means something.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good sign. He didn't play well against Ghana, but at his age, that's still somewhat to be expected. It's sort of like Kellen Acosta not playing great the other day. There are things that happen when you have a 21-year-old out there that they're still learning a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like having an 18-year-old number 10. Although he's not human.
Who shows composure beyond his decades, much less years.
Yeah. So there it is. I mean, it's probably a win. Do we want to?
Villafana too. I forgot all about Villafana.
Probably.
I think Villafana is probably our left back going forward.
Which is so weird.
Unless Greg Garza should really put things together, I don't know who else is truly competing for left back.
You know who I'm surprised, and he's a guy I've been watching for a couple of years in Chicago, but I think Matt Polster has a real chance of because of our lack of depth behind DeAndre Yedlin at right back, I could see Matt Polster maybe making the roster. And I wish he was in I wish he was in Tampa with this team, because I think he's got.
I'd hope that Zusi doesn't make the roster personally, but
no, well,
I mean, his heart's in the right place, and it's not like I want to say he's a bad player. I just don't think he fits with this team. And
will DeMarcus make it?
I think he's getting I'm afraid so.
I think at this point,
I mean, it's a cool story on the one hand, because he goes into such a small category of guys who have been to 5 World Cups, but man, I just can't see him truly starting truly playing as a left back in another World Cup.
Josh was like, Chandler or Zusi, pick your backup. I would take Zusi. At least Zusi cares.
By quality, you go Chandler. Yeah,
Chandler's more talented, but
you might go Zusi because at least he's committed. I'd like to say we go Lehigh, but God, we've been calling for that guy forever, and he cannot get a chance.
Are we doing score predictions?
Here's to hoping he gets in and he plays really well tomorrow.
I hope he dominates. Yeah. Has like a John Brooks in Philadelphia type performance.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Where it's like, how is this guy not out here all the time? Get him in contention as either the first backup or maybe the starting right back, depending on how you want to play Yedlin or who the competition is.
All right, what's your score prediction?
I'm going 3-0 US. I just think we are. I know it's on paper. We should be a far superior team to this. I don't think Panama was a full representation of what this team can do. God is a better team than Panama, and we beat them. We didn't manhandle them by any means, but I'm not willing to go on record, as some people have seen on the internet, with like 6 and 7-0 games. I don't. They're better than. It's not St. Kitts. Who are the guys from St. Louis? Vincy Heat. Yeah, they're better than St. Vincent.
They scored on us though.
But yeah, they did score on us, and they scored on us first. So I don't think this team is sound yet, but I still think it's good enough to win this game. And I think you're going to see players who want to prove something after the other day.
I'm saying 2-0. I'm fairly confident we'll win, but I'm not fairly confident. I'm not too confident it'll be, a blowout or anything. I mean, it definitely could be, but no, I think 2-0. Maybe they sneak one, but so I probably have to predict. My streak is over. I don't have to predict who's going to score, do I? I will say Dwyer will get one.
Yeah, I still think Dwyer's going to get one. I kind of think Acosta's going to get one again.
I think Paul Arriola scores for us tomorrow. Mark it down. So Dwyer and Arriola, 2-0 US. That's what I'll say. Hopefully no one gets hurt. Hopefully we win comfortably. We will have a show for you tomorrow night. The match is at 8 o'clock Central Time, I think. 9 o'clock
I think that's
Eastern.
Right. I think that's right.
It's a late start for an East Coast game. CTV can move stuff around when they want to.
Imagine that.
Maybe they could get the game out of the sweltering heat. That'll help with the heat situation being so late. But so that would put our post-game show around 10. So we'll have a show for you tomorrow night around 10, whenever the match ends. Who knows? So hopefully we're happy. I think we're close to the end of this thing, aren't we?
Yeah, I've got nothing else. I'm not feeling well, and I still have a screaming child. The entire show here, I've had a screaming child, so I have to go take care of that.
It's always fun for you, those of you guys who aren't dads. It's always a blast. You try to calm them down and it does nothing. I'll do the social media real quick. USFanTV.com. We have Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. They are all USFanTV. We hate Snapchat. We're secretly buried on Craigslist. We are on Friendster back in 2007. It was the first thing we ever did. We're on YouTube, but you know that. Subscribe if you haven't, and please tell your friends. It helps a lot. We're over 450 subscriptions, which is awesome, and climbing. We do not like Chris Wondolowski all that much on this show. And I think that's it. Do you have any last words?
Like Wando, fuck Snapchat. You're done.
Yep, we need a Tinder next. You're done.